So yeah, so the thing is, even though this was a loss, like it's this kind of like early game playstyle that I think can really work in solo queue. Now it only really works in solo queue, so in comp it's really not as much, but it's very very flip. But when we're against things like the Amumu, it's quite good to do because like if he doesn't get his blue buff, he's gonna struggle so hard to clear that he's then forced to gank, which sometimes when he's forced to gank that does kind of work, but especially when you get to a higher elo, they'll be forced to gank, and then all of a sudden your laners won't die to it, and you'll be able to pop off. Wait, you there? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, so we want to make sure that we keep our ward because what we do is obviously put that ward onto the wolf camp, and then from there we can see where he is. Now against some junglers like that, Lise for example, she was already on the wolves, so you killed her. But with him, the likelihood is they showed bot, so he is on this blue. So as soon as you put the ward, we just have to make sure that we're ready to jump straight away. So we go the EQ because obviously we can knock him up. And yeah, so I see ward there, and then we actually see him straight away. So easy. Now the reason why this works so well on these like kind of very aggressive early game junglers is because you have both a massive amount of damage
Yeah,
and
and
you
the
have a
gap
gap
closer.
closer. Yeah, exactly. So
Hmm.
you can do it on things like Vi, you can do it on Lee Sin, you can do it on Jax. Those are some of my favorite ones to do this on. But yeah,
Hmm.
so after you've done this, obviously you've taken his blue buff away. You do want to make sure you get these, just because you can basically delay his next clear, which is going to damage him in roughly 2 minutes time. And then from here, what you do is most times in these elos, and we saw that in the next game that you played, right? Like what will happen is they will go, oh no, like I haven't got a blue buff now, like shit, like I need a blue buff. So then what they'll do is they'll run straight to your blue. So
Yeah,
what you can do then is you can just reset there, run to your blue, and then you get one of two things: either they show up on your blue buff and you get another fight where their flash is down because you've already burnt it, and or secondly, they don't go to it, and you just get double blue buff, right? And you get double buff XP, which is really, really good for you.
yeah.
So here we get Grump. I do think here we probably could have maybe even just gone into his jungle. So one of the problems is that we popped this cone, which that we didn't actually see this entire time. Actually, they didn't have a ward in Tribush. So what we should have done here is taken our Gromp for level 3, and then not pop the cone so he didn't know where we are, and just run straight to his red buff, right? Because we know that's where he's going to be. And we could have just gone to the red buff and killed him again on that with the fact that he has no flash. Um, Either way, that's fine, because here, you see, we popped this and he's actually there. But we already knew he was there because he can't be in top side, right? And we saw him move into the bottom side off that ward. So we could have done that
Wouldn't
with
wouldn't his thing or just pop or reveal me as well?
his what, sorry?
Like when or the scryers or whatever. Wouldn't that
Uh,
see me on red or blue
no,
buff?
because if you would imagine you hadn't popped it, like, so at this point he hasn't seen you, right? So if you would
Yeah,
have started walking down here, then you would have actually
yeah.
just dodged it. So see, so do you see his was like here?
Uh-huh.
That was like the limit. So if you were like here, he wouldn't have actually seen you, and he would have had no idea. And the fact that he went for this crab is kind of hilarious because you can just go like this and you don't get seen by it anyway. So another time we could have been a little bit more aggressive, but it's okay. Now this is the thing: like you can only do it on these junglers as well because they have so much power in the early game, like loaded into their kits that they could do it very easily. But then when it gets to the mid to late game, they start falling off unless you're snowballing. So if you do
Yeah.
snowball though, it's very very kind of easy. Again, we go and clear this away. So right now, we know that he's going to be walking towards his top side, right? Because he's respawning right here. So
Yeah.
this is kind of the thing. Now, obviously, I know it's kind of difficult with these kind of play styles because in this game, obviously, you had me saying he's going to be here, he's going to be there, go do this, go do that. So playing these champions, this is one of the reasons why they're so difficult. But if you do manage to nail this, kind of this kind of tracking in game, then it's really good. Now, obviously, it takes a long time to track the kind of this level, but you're kind of also making the tracking easy for yourself because even though you don't have vision, it's like, okay, well, where else is he going to be, right? Like,
Uh-huh.
there's nowhere else he can really be right now, and we had the respawn timer on his buff, so that's really good for us. So
Uh,
here we do spot him. So here you actually want to kite this towards the brush just so that you can get it in it straight away, because he was recalling in bot in that point, so he's not going to be here for a little while now, especially considering I don't think he's going to buy boots early either. So again, we just sit in this brush. So you just want to make sure that you just sit in here for a little bit. So you don't want to waste too much time. But a little bit of time is okay because you're playing a champion like this and you know he's going to walk this way because he's going to want his blue. So here you can see again. And, it's also your flash isn't up, so his isn't up. So it just means that it's a very guaranteed kill, right? And then, yeah, so... And this is the thing. So at this point, Abimu is very far behind. At this point, it wasn't too bad. Here, so this was where you could have just kept going. So even if you would just kept walking, it'd be fine. So
yeah,
this
yeah.
was, you didn't look at the minimap. You looked away, right? So she was actually
Yeah.
in this brush right here.
Huh.
So if we would have actually just walked up, swept it, we would have been able to see her, and then we could have cancelled her with our W, into obviously our E, Q, etc.
Weird.
But
She actually got the recall off
yeah,
in that amount of time.
yep,
That doesn't make sense to me.
yeah.
That seems like it went way faster.
I mean,
Oh, yeah,
it's
let me watch the mini map again. Oh, I guess, yeah.
7, 8,
Oh, yeah. I guess she barely just got it off. Yeah.
10.
Right.
So yeah,
All right.
so she's there. She's back now. So here, like, so in this situation again, so this is kind of where it's hard because this is kind of where it's hard for me to tell you kind of what to do with enough time because it's all down to timing, right? So right here, in theory, you had enough time to take your Krugs, but unless you knew exactly what the plan was, it was better to just reset. Because what we do now is, like we previously mentioned, we've got timers on our red and his blue, so we end up with our items anyway. To be honest, we maybe even could have just sold this pot for the vampiric, just because we are snowballing and we're 2-0, so we can get rid of this and just continue the snowball a little bit more. It doesn't really matter that much, especially since we've backed twice here anyway. So what we're going to be, what the goal is here is because we've got basically timers on his entire jungle due to the way we've been playing it. We know that if we get our red buff, his blue buff is going to be spawning soon after. So again, it's about kind of denying these blue buff junglers their blue the entire game. It's ridiculously
Yeah.
overpowered. Because it's like, they're going to be just as useless. So here, obviously, we missed that big one, but... So also with smites, so right here, for example, as soon as you get to this camp, you should have instantly smite. So why do you think you should just instantly smite it here?
Let's try and get the cooldown and charge.
So that's one thing, yeah. So the problem is right now you've got 2 smites right now, so you're not getting any cooldown
Cooldown.
on
Yeah.
thingies. So your goal should always be to have used all of your smites by roughly 7 minutes. Or to just basically have a upgraded smite ready for Herald, because Herald is such an important objective in the early game, especially on snowballing junglers, that you really want to make sure that you prioritize it a lot. And this is also where this kind of playstyle comes in, right? And this is why you can follow this kind of path in a lot of games right now when you lock the entire top side down, which is very good because what ends up happening is as you take red and evade him onto blue, if he does show up here again, which the likelihood is they do a lot of the time, then what you end up doing is you kill him on there and then you get instant access to Herald, and then you can obviously use a Herald wherever you want for the plates. Now, when you, how much gold roughly do you think you get for using Herald on an entire tower for first tower?
1200?
Yeah,
Is
so
that
I think it's exactly 1250.
1250?
But
160
yeah,
each plate? Yeah.
yeah, but around about that is a massive amount of gold. So that's over 1200 gold, um, really easily. So here, obviously, you don't want to take this grab. So why do you think this? It's like really, really in if you take this.
As it give him time to walk back.
Yeah. So it's a mutual camp as well, which means he's not going to take it if you're in his jungle, and also it
Yeah,
doesn't really give that much anymore. Like it will give vision on
yeah.
the herald, which is great, but they're just really not that great now. I think this is where he went for the dragon, right? Now, obviously, as a Mumu here, he should have come to your blue buff. So we can't really predict that he to his blue buff. Sorry, so we can't really predict that he wouldn't. But you want to kind of just be a little hesitant before you start an objective at the opposite side of the map, because right here the Fiora is pushing in and the Orianna just got a kill on Xerath. So we did see him go down to dragon there. Yeah, we did see him go to it, but we just want to get this first. Oh, actually, he took them first, didn't he? So either way. So he, for some reason, decided to go nowhere near, but we get a nice Herald recall, get some more gold. Now, we could have potentially cleared away these two camps and got our item on base, but you're going to be going into steel caps anyway. So this is the thing, when it comes to this game, obviously they do have a massive amount of CC, but one of the big things is obviously your ultimate is very, very good at getting their CC away. Obviously a Mumu can only proc his CC in the area that he's in, so as soon as you see his Q go through, if you actually are, you can knock him away.
Yeah.
And also, you've got a Fiora that's going to be autoing you, and a Senna that's going to be autoing you from across the map. Like it's so easy right now to get like 700 plus range on Senna because of how they've buffed her Q. So she's got Glacial Augment on her Q now. So you end
Wow.
up in this kind of situation where you can get so many marks on her now that she snowballs way, way too fast. But yeah, so this was one of the first kind of big fights, right? So at this point, we're very strong. We're 2-0. Now, this is where Xin Zhao becomes quite hard because I don't think Xin Zhao is the most mechanically intensive champion. There's obviously champions that are much harder than him in this same playstyle, like things like Lee Sin. But he's not the easiest mechanically, right? So in these kind of situations, it's like, so we get Senna here. Now, what do you think was one
I'm
of
gonna
the
ulted first. I thought I got the ult out for Mumu Arna.
No, no. So, what do you think was one of the first big mistakes here? Now, when you're engaging on Xin Zhao, what should be the first thing that you're always thinking of? Um,
W first, maybe?
what's that, sorry?
W first.
So WE first, yeah. So that's because obviously your Q reduces the cooldown of all of your other abilities. But when you're looking to skirmish, what tool do you have right now that is
Red Smite.
yeah, Red Smite is the perfect skirmishing tool. If you would have actually Red Smited the Senna here, this would have been a completely different fight. Because, so right here, she gets out with like barely anything. You would have actually taken, she's got 150 HP right there. So you would
Right.
have taken that away with the Red Smite.
Is Red Smite like a burn? I
Yes,
I
it's
haven't built
damage
it
over
in a
time.
very long time.
Yeah,
Damage
Red
over
Smite
time.
is a damage over time and true damage as well.
Right.
So let me get it up for you. So challenging smite. It's just showing. So as you can see here, it deals, obviously that's true damage, and so you mark them for 4 seconds, so it's basically a mini exhaust. So you reduce their damage to you by 20%, which is good when you're in a 1v1, right? Like 20% damage reduction is huge, but then it's up to 125 true damage burn over 2.5 seconds.
Right.
So
Right.
overall, it's crazy good. It's insanely powerful. You only really want blue smite if you're playing a champion that doesn't really have many gap closers and you're
Yeah.
in kind of into a lot of like mobility. So obviously on something like Kane it's a little bit different because you can blue smite them into ultimate, so that's kind of
Yeah. That's
one of the
usually what I did.
niches. Yeah, but when it comes to any kind of skirmish jungler, Lee Sin, Vi, Xin Zhao,
Yeah.
Volibear, like you always want to go with that red smite. It's
Right.
just so
Right.
good. So here we managed to get the Senna. Mumu flashes away. This we did really big in a little bit here because the Rakan did flash and we just used our Herald here. So if we
Yeah.
would have
Yeah. I
just got
didn't expect him to do that at all, man.
yeah, it's fine. I mean that's kind of
Thought it
one of
was
the
over.
situations right
Oh,
where
no.
it's kind of like he did it randomly.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is here, obviously, I didn't get time to tell you not to use Herald. And so, why do you think you shouldn't have used Herald here? What do you think you should have waited for?
The kills, or I'm not sure.
Okay, so right here, the Senna's dead. So she's not up for another 15 seconds yet. They're too low to defend this tower whatsoever, so they're not going to be able to defend it without dying. So what we do is we wait for this wave here, we pull the wave up, and then we get, say, 2 towers, plates. We drop our Herald, and then by the time
Yeah,
Herald has kind of spawned and done its
the
stuff,
whole thing.
it'll be like this, yeah. So we can actually get the entire turret here if we just wait for that. So this was kind of one of them big moments that this could have very, very heavily changed the entire game, because then you've also unlocked not only the Zeri, which I'll be completely honest right now, I don't know if unlocking the Zeri would have been the best thing. I'm really not sure because the champion is a little bit all over the place. But you unlock the Rakan. Now, unlocking the Rakan is very, very good because you can basically have him roam around the map with you then. Now, he should have been doing this anyway, don't get me wrong. But in solo queue, especially in these kind of like low railers, supports don't realize how important roaming is. So it's a little bit more rough. But obviously then Lulu manages to actually pop it, and we don't really get as much. So here, the Rakan did actually move. So I think we should have just gone a little bit earlier, to be honest. Because the Rakan's
Yeah.
moving here anyway, and the Jax has TP, I think.
Yeah.
So if we were there, like, directly on top right now, like, then the Rakan could have potentially killed, because she has no mana as well. So we could have basically been there to follow a flash, which, you know, would have potentially been another kill. Now, obviously, in this situation, you couldn't do it yet, but later on into the game, if you EW and then you use 3 Qs, like, if you've got enough haste, you can sometimes use your E to jump to them again.
Right.
But that's a bit later on into the game. But again, here...
Yeah, I don't have much attack speed either.
Yeah. So, here, obviously, we take our red, and again, we invade him for his blue, which is fine. Again, we're just denying it from him over and over. He hasn't had a single blue buff this game. So this is the thing, and this is the thing that you want to kind of focus on with these kind of games, is in the first 15 minutes of this game here, we have 3-0-0 with 90 CS, and we've completely shut the Amumu out of the game. So this is what you focus on, right? Because these first 15 minutes are the most important part of your gameplay when you're playing things like Xin Zhao. So if you can replicate this when I'm not here and get to a point where you can get this quite often, then it's really, really good. So here, what we should have done is, because she's thrown a ball, if we instantly W there, if we miss our W, it doesn't matter. But if we land it, we can actually jump on her, red smite, 3 Qs, knock her up. Now, one thing that you do want to do is, when you're clearing camps and such, you always want to use your EW first. But in this situation, you W first here and then go with E. And then your Q knockups will get your W low enough that ideally when your third Q goes through, that's when you want a W. If, say, for example, you don't need to jump on top. So if you would have used E to go directly in here, you 3Q into your W, because then that allows you to guarantee that you land both parts of the W and do the maximum damage from it. Because the W is where most of your damage comes from on Xin Zhao. It's kind of what makes you so strong. And again, Dark Seal is great, because right now you're sitting on a spike. Dark Seal is really gold effective. It's like an extra 1,000 gold for free when you're at max stacks. But on top of that, obviously, your healing is very much based on AP. So if you can get a Dark Seal to 10 stacks, then even turn it into a Medjay's, you get that extra movement speed from the Medjay's, and you can get it to 25 stacks and still stomp. Because when it comes to solo queue, Medjay's is probably one of the most heavily influencing solo queue items in the game, right? Like, if you can get to 25 stacks and keep them, you just end up ridiculously powerful on the majority of champs. And Xin also has scalings on most of his abilities for AP too. So it just means that it's such a good buy. It's unreal. And in my opinion, it's one of the things that makes Xin so much better than a lot of other kind of AD early game skirmishing junglers, because they can't go Medjay's, right? So Lee Sin can obviously do a lot more kind of fancy moves and stuff, but overall,
Right.
I really, really like Zen. Now, this was another kind of one of them big fights where mechanically
Ugh.
it was just a little rough. Now, one of the first things when you do go for this, you can actually extend your W with your flash anyway. So what you want to do is you want to line your W up first, then you want to flash after you've pressed W.
Yeah. Right.
So that's kind of the first thing. Then we kind of
Can't believe that
missed him.
missed. Yeah.
Yeah, and the Lulu kind of went nuts. But so here, we weren't
I
paying
don't.
enough attention over here.
That's coming.
So unfortunately, we did miss that W on Ori, which it would have been really good if we got it. And yeah, then the center kind of goes nuts. So a few kind of mechanical issues. I mean, one of the first ones was, to be honest, there we probably shouldn't have flashed straight away. And if
Yeah,
we
for
hadn't
sure.
of, we would have actually been able to use our flash to get onto the Oriana, which it would have been kind of like a snowball effect. As of then, to be fair, but
Right.
it's not the end of the world here. So this was a little bit in. So here, like when you're coming, even kind of as a Xin, like or anything, you never really want to be coming into the lane this way because it restricts your kind of I mean, this tower is safety, but this area is so short that it's very very easy for them to land things. So instead, you kind of want to come you can come here and then W over, but just basically come from an area where they can't see you coming, so that then you can kind of wait. So you can say sit here and then wait for say Senna's W to go off, and then as soon as she uses a W on say Rakan, that's when you can jump over and do things, right? Obviously a little bit of I mean we are moving our camera a little better this time, to be honest. We're moving it earlier than what we have been previously, so that's good. A little bit earlier would have been better,
I don't
but
know. I thought I saw Mumi and thought it was Lulu. They're both
oh
small.
yeah, yeah, they are. I mean, they're both tiny, to be fair. Like, I mean, that's okay. Like,
Yeah, I don't know.
it was
I
with
made I
that.
made some mistakes this game.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, it's completely fine to make mistakes, especially considering the first 15 minutes were very, very well done. But it's just that kind of at this point. So one of the biggest things to kind of take into consideration as well is really don't worry, kind of these stages of the game. So like right here, if we look at the scoreboard, whenever you pop it again. Oops, so we had one there, so 15, 17. We'll get it. There we go. So what do you notice about kind of your kind of comp as a whole? So right now you're 3-0.
Hmm.
Obviously,
I
yeah.
I was gonna say I like to try and gank mid and top, but I found was pretty unsuccessful this time. So I tried that.
Yeah, so I mean the
Like I
thing
never
is,
really. Yeah.
top is a potential, but like we shit the Amumu out. That like we definitely did our job as a jungler this game.
Yeah.
Obviously there were a few kind of ganks that we messed up, like that one on the Fiora where we kind of lost track of it. But overall, like Jax will scale if we can get this game going a bit longer. Xerath has wave clear, so in games like this, you kind of just don't want to worry too much because right now you're massively ahead in terms of items, right? Like you're very very ahead right there. And Xerath has a ridiculous amount of wave clear, and Rakan can come around with you, and hopefully shut some people down. But yeah, here we just had kind of that problem because here as well, it was kind of like we didn't look at the minimap too, so we did kind of just tunnel vision a bit on her, which we can do if we have flash, but we didn't here, or ultimate actually. But yeah, Xin Zhao, you do very very heavily want to play around your ult also. It's very very good. So here, yeah, like he was always going to be on this, because it's a bounty. So there's a bounty right here, and if you see, we saw him coming up here. To be fair, it was actually pinged too. I don't know who pinged it. It was one of the anonymous pings. But yeah, so the Fiora is there. So instead of Blast Coning, I thought you were going to come to this one, to be fair. The Scryer's Bloom. Because if you would have popped that, you would have actually seen. And then, you could have gone with the Xerath. But, I mean,
Yeah.
it's okay. I mean, the thing is, at 17 minutes, the Herald doesn't mean that much. But it is a little bit of a bounty for your team. Which the bounties are a little bit busted. But yeah, the Fiora is very strong at this point, so it's very hard to do much. But maybe we could have killed the Ori or something like that. She did play that one well, though. She did flash it pretty nicely. So again, we did lose our lead a little bit, but again, this is the thing. These kind of champions and these kind of junglers, they're honestly the best kind of junglers you can learn. Now, they're not the best kind of junglers because they are the best junglers, because obviously things like farming junglers, like if you're playing something like Diana, it's much more straightforward, it's much easier, and it's a lot less mechanically intensive. But the problem is you don't want your mechanics to kind of stray behind too much on your kind of macro play, and if you don't really focus on improving mechanics at all, when you get to kind of like diamond or higher diamond, you end up in this kind of situation where if you're playing anything that is even the slightest bit mechanical, you're just going to lose. So I mean, things like Kane, and they're a bit more fun, right, as well. Like things like Kane, they get a little bit boring after a while, because it's just so like sleeper. It's just farm everything, go for a kill, farm everything again, go for a kill, maybe farm a little bit more, get another kill. So they can be boring, but and then here, that was kind of the end of it, right?
Yep.
So
It's been over.
Yeah, I mean, overall, this is the thing. I do think try and kind of implement this playstyle on a few champions and see what you think about it, especially because I know that you get bored unless you play something mechanical. So maybe just try focusing on someone that's really mechanical, right? And just see where you get to. And again, don't really worry too much about your rank currently. Your goal is Diamond or Masters by the end of the season, which, it's not even February yet. So spend this time to kind of just get a grasp of the game, learn some kind of new concepts, and do play styles, especially around this. Maybe see if you can pull off something similar on your own when I'm not here. Just kind of see how it goes. Because this kind of shut the enemy jungler out, stop them doing anything. It's such a good tactic for climbing in solo queue, especially when your laners are going to fuck up. So you kind of want to put yourself in a position where it's like, I am in control of what's actually happening in this game, rather than my laners are in control of what I can do. Because the most frustrating thing is when you expect laners to do certain things, and they're not even looking at the minimap, so they don't even know. And it happens all the time. It happens to me, don't worry. So your main goal is just basically start being as self-sufficient as possible, and just start seeing the game as this is jungle versus jungle, and try shutting them down like that. Now, obviously, if they're not a blue buff jungler, it's not as good, but you can still get that kind of early cheese kill, and kind of pop off. So overall, it was a shame that this one was lost. I think we did play it very well early, but overall, I think it was still good at kind of demonstrating this aggression and this tracking. And again, jungle tracking is going to be something that will benefit you not only on jungle, but on every single role. So I definitely think focusing on it a lot is the big play here. So for this week, just focus on your tracking primarily, and just focus on playing this jungle versus jungle, like guerrilla warfare kind of thing, and just shut them out, and see where it goes.
Sounds good.
We'll leave that there.